Hi viewers and welcome to the channel, and today we're going to be looking at creating a canopy such as this in FreeCAD in both the part and the part design workbench. This opens the door to more complex forms which we'll be looking at in future videos. So I hope that you're enjoying this series. Let's have a look at this technique.
If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a coffee site that you can donate to if you so desire, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content, and that's at www.patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel.
So for this surfacing tutorial, we're going to be using the part, and then we're going to go into the part design afterwards to show you how the two workflows actually are basically exactly the same. So we're going to be modeling this airplane canopy. And what we're looking for is an initial shape of this. I'm not worried about the dimensions because there is no dimensions in here. I can go in and measure it, but this is just from GrabCAD, and here's the URL for the actual model. And I'm just going to be using this as reference. So what I'm looking at is the profile from the different angles. So we're looking at the footprint, and then we're going to be looking at the profile from the different angles like so. It's not going to be a exact replica. This is just to get the technique down of how you would tackle something like this. So we're going to start with the footprint, and we're going to make a number of scaffolding sketches. The first one I'm going to do along the XY plane for the footprint. Let's take a closer look at the model. So if we bring the model around, we can see we've got these overhangs here. And if we look at the bottom, we can see the footprint is this part and this part, and they go out this way. So we have to take notice of these overhangs. I'm going to create a line, and we're going to mirror this model over to the other side as well. So we're just doing one side. Because the canopy is symmetrical, we can get away with doing one side and then mirroring that over to the other. Remember, this is not an exact replica. We don't know any measurements either, but if I did know, I would be placing some length between these points here. And we'll just put some arbitrary length in for the time being. Something like that. It's not fully constrained, but we'll go for that for the time being. Let's close that. So that's one side of the footprint. We're now going to create another sketch to align the profiles, and this is quite important. So new sketch, make sure nothing's selected. New sketch, XY plane. Look at the beginning and end of this line. We're going to be using the point, which is not often used, and we're going to place these in line at different points for the profile. So we've got one here, one about in the middle, another one, and one at the end. These can be set a distance away, and what we're going to do is use these points to align this line and the top curve of the canopy. So for instance, I may want to come in here and add, say, a length between these two and set them a certain length away, making sure we select the right ones, say 30, etc. This one is going to be a bit less, so we have those there. I'm not sure what length these are, but we'll go for that for the time being. Let's close that. At the moment you can see that we can't see those points, and that's because when the points are added, they're automatically converted to construction geometry. We need to set those to be out of construction mode. Therefore, when I close, we can see the points. If I come into this sketch now, this one here, we can pull in those points and align lines with those, like so. And we'll do the end one as well. So use the external geometry and pull in that point. This is important to keep everything in line, because what we're going to do is we're going to add some points to this line as well. So let's pull in the other points. So this one, and if we look, there's no more. I might add another 2 in here. Go for that for the time being. And I'm also going to add points to this line. Now, depending on what type of line you're using, if you're using a B-spline, you'll have to do something different. So we'll use a B-spline in the next one for the top canopy, rather than an arc or something like that. Now I've got those in there, what I'm going to do is use the vertical constraint and align those points like so. Let's make sure that the points are converted to construction geometry and hit close. So you can see we've got these points in here, and now we've got the points on this line. The reason why we added them is because if you add a profile across here, these points will show up on the profile when you import them in. If we didn't have these points or some kind of divide in this line, we could divide this into edges, then the only points we have to pull in are the endpoints, and they will be no good to attach our profiles to. So we have this line in here. Let's add the top profile. So let's get ourselves orientated to the front and add the sketch along the XZ plane. This is actually the side profile. Let's OK that. So we're here now. Let's take a look at what we've got. So we can see the curvature of the top is here, and we'll use a B-spline. Now the same again is we pull in these points, and these points need to be on our B-spline as well. If I was doing this to scale, what I would be doing is measuring from here to here at different sections, and then I can place a height between those points and then draw the B-spline between those. Now one thing we must remember is that we can't add a single B-spline in here, because what will happen, we add in the points, hit escape, these points won't show up, these points will, and we can't add points to this line. They will not attach onto that line. So we have to find another method. We can use the B-spline, and what we'll do is, I know that when we look at the model, we can see the starting point is here. So this is the point of origin, say it's here, and it's over this way at an angle from there. So I'm going to come up at an angle and place one point here. So this will show up, this one won't, and this one will if I hit escape. So we have to build this in this way. So this point here will be in line with this one, and add the vertical constraint. Click the B-spline again, and we're going to go coincident to that point. We've got the auto constraints on, and I've checked the auto remove redundant constraints as well. Probably won't need it for this one. Click, and the third point needs to be in line with this one, and place those in line and continue. And that one's in line, and again this goes further this way, so we go for the B-spline and just to finish. We could add some construction geometry in here like so. Turn this to construction and set an angle between these two if we wanted to. If we wanted to find out the angle at which that lies. But I'm quite happy with what we got there. Let's close that. So we've got the footprint and the top curve, which is also the side profile. So this is the top curve. This one is the footprint. And this one is the points, which is just there to help us. So this is the placement sketch. Now we've got those, what we can do is highlight all three sketches and come down to the view, and I'm just going to up the point size. This makes it a lot easier to see those vertices, and we just up it to 6 point size so we can see those there. It just makes it a lot easier to select. If you want to as well, you can come in and say change the color as well. So the line color, we can change the footprint to say red, so you know whereabouts that is in 3D space. The idea of these points are to place a profile along. So the first profile will be this one, but I'm going to go for this one to start with. Create a sketch, and we need to position it along the same plane, so I cancel that because we're going to translate the origin of this. So we're going to place it along the YZ plane. Make sure nothing's selected, new sketch, YZ, and we look at this. I'm going to make this reverse and hit OK. So that's in position now. And I'm just going to draw a simple rectangle in there. Just get an idea of where that lays. Now, if we look, we can see the points here and here of this curve. So if this rectangle was placed on this point, we'll have this point and this point. And we can place our arcs in here to make the curvature of the canopy and make sure they join up with these points. Let's close that, and we've got our first rectangle in. Now, with all the other rectangles, this is just temporary, by the way, just to show you where this lays. With all the other profile sketches and the rectangles in there, we just need to copy this sketch, edit, copy, and then edit, paste, or Control V. And that copies that sketch. Come down to the map mode. All we need to do is come in here and click on the button at the end. All I have to do now is select the vertex I want to place it on. And you can see it's got translate origin. So the origin was here and it's just translated across. And because that sketch is still in memory, Control V, and it's there. Now, one tip I'll give you here, let me just delete those two and rename this sketch to Profile 1, is that when I copy this, Control C and Control V, then I'll get Profile 2. So the naming is correct. And now we can use the map mode and select, place another one, use the map mode for our last profile. Well, this is next to last. Let's OK that. Let's hide those profiles. We need a profile here, so we're going to use a different map mode here because we need to align it going this way but at an angle to intercept this point. For that, I'm going to come up to the top view and add another sketch, XY plane. Bring the sketch to the side, I want to import this point. And I may do the same with this point, but that should be enough. And now I'm going to place a line, goes across, and that's symmetrical, so taking these 2 points and this point in the middle and using symmetry. So we've got a line here. Let's close that. So we have this line. So this is going to be a scaffolding sketch that we're going to use to position the next sketch. Let's take a copy of one of those profiles. Control C. At the moment it's attached, so I'm going to take away the placement sketch, just leave the profile 003, OK, and Control V. Let's show that sketch. Come down to the map mode. At the moment it's translate. Let's click on that, and we're just going to click on the vertex so it says selecting. So this time I'm going to select the line. At the moment the Z is normal to edge. I'm going to go inertia 2-3. Now I'm going to go for reference 2, and I'm going to select this point. We're now aligned between these 2 points and this line. Let's OK that, and now our profile, our map mode, 3 points on plane, and we're ready to go. So let's start sketching with this one. Double click the profile, and I'm going to make a walled profile in here. So I'm going to create closed geometry to do this. I don't need this rectangle anymore. That's just to show where that sketch was in 3D space. What I need to do is bring in these 2 points. So this point and this point. And this is the reason why we added these points. Because if we got the points in there, we can then just add, I'm using the endpoint and rim point arc. You can use a B-spline if you want. We can just add an arc in here, and we'll add another one to make the inner wall. We need some lines to connect them up. Remember, we got the auto constraints and the auto remove redundant constraints, and we'll create a line in here as well. Make sure that's straight, and set some distance, 1.5 millimeters. Make the 2 equal, and we'll set the radius of these to be equal as well. We can change these to the curvature that we want, but I'm just going to go for something like that. Hit close, we can see that the curvature aligns with the top and the sides. And we can hide that profile and work on our next one, which is profile 1, this one here. So double click, and it's basically the same process of bringing in the points, add in the first arc, and the second. Closing the geometry, making sure it is closed. And then once the geometry is closed, we can start adding our constraints. If you wanted to, you could set up a parameter for such things as this width, and we add the equality constraints, and any radius constraints or length constraints that we want. So we have 2 profiles so far. What I'm going to do is sketch in the other profiles, and then we can move on to the next step. We've got one last profile to add, and that's this one here. Again, this is the same as this one here, how this is set up. Remember, we created a line and attached the sketch to the line and reference this point. So let's do that on the other side. I'm going to create another line. We can do it on the same sketch, but I'm just going to create another one. And we'll place in line with this point. Just a line in there, making sure that these 2 points are symmetrical to that point. Let's close that. And now we come round to the ZY plane and create new sketch. YZ or ZY plane, okay that. Let's add some basic geometry so we can know where the sketch is in 3D space. And finally, take that sketch. It's going to be profile 5. And look at the map mode. Come into the map mode. And we'll select the new line. Inertia 2-3. Making sure we've got the right sketch selected. This one here. Next reference is already saying selecting, so we'll select this vertex. We have plane by 3 point and we hit OK. So this profile now is set up. And we can come in and start sketching. So I'm going to use the section view section. And you can see the points are set up in there. So all we need to do is take that out and pull in the top point. I'm looking for the side points, but I can't find them. Let's have a look, see what we got. Come back in. Let's have a look. So it's over here. And I want to pull in this point here. Just pull in the line, that's fine. Back to the view section. And now I can add the arc. There's one thing I'm going to do in this one that you might want to do for all the rest as well, and that's make sure that the top of this is tangent. So let's add in another arc. You can see we haven't got anything to lay this on, so I'm going to make sure that this is in line. Take these 2 points, connect them up, and these 2 points, I don't think that connected, so let's take these 2. Coincident, and taking these 2, sure they're equal, going with these 2, just going to hit E for equal and set a length in here of 1.5. Now to make sure that this point here is tangent, this is a fixed point, we'll place a line going across here. And this line is along the horizontal. We'll attach it to this point. We'll point an object constraint or point a line constraint and take this arc and this line and use the tangency. So an endpoint to edge tangency was applied. So this is now tangent. Make sure that this is construction geometry. Because that's tangent now, we should get a nice mirror. We won't get any dipping in here. Let's do that on the other side. So let's find this one. You can see how that dips over and comes down. So this profile here, double click it and come round. And what we'll do is place a line in here, making sure it's nice and horizontal with a horizontal constraint, using this point and this line, point on object constraint, and you can see the tangency there. There is no tangency. Make sure this is construction geometry so it doesn't show up, and use this line or this arc and this one and make them tangent and see how they move. And we can go through and do that for all of them, but I'm not going to do it for these two because we can see in the mirror what that looks like when it's mirrored over. So we have our profiles, we have our footprints. Now we can go through the loft process. I'm going to come over to the part workbench and we're going to create a new loft. So part loft. We've got our profiles. When I click on them, they show up in green. You can see them there. So we find our first profile, which is not profile 1. Let's go for this end. Doesn't matter which end we go for. So profile 5. Next profile is 3, this one. Next profile 2, 1, and the last one 4. Make sure create solid is checked and hit OK. Now we've got our loft. And we can see how closely that follows that line there. Let's go for the mirror. So click on the loft. Go out to part mirroring. We want to mirror this over this plane here, the Z and the X, so the XZ plane. So we'll pick that from here, XZ, OK, and we've got our mirror. Now, if we look, we can see we've got a nice tangency here, and as we go over the top, you can see that some of the areas aren't tangent, but we've got a nice mirror anyway. We can come in and do that technique with tangency across those if we want a better surface. And all we need to do is take the sketches and hide them. Go into the loft and hide all the profiles. Just selecting and pressing the spacebar. And there we have a finished canopy. Now at this point it's worth looking over the model and seeing if we've got some problems. So it's worth looking at the corners here. So this corner is okay. And if we come into this corner, we can see we've got a problem in here. And this is because the profiles are on top of each other virtually. If we come into that loft, so this loft here, and come down, and we can set the max degrees to 3, that changes the loft there, so you can see that's not taking effect. We can try a higher number to see if we have any luck. If that's not working, what we can do is come into our lines. So remember, we attach this to a line, so this line here, and this deals with the placement of this profile. So we just move this away by coming into the placement, into the position, and we want to move it along the x-axis. So this is position, so it's not attachment. So this is global coordinate systems. Control R, and you can see that's moved, but we've got some curvature in here, so I've moved that forward, but you can see what's happened there. We've got this curving down, so this has affected the profile. So that's come into the profile of that loft. Let's come down and look to find out which profile that is, and just pressing the spacebar until I find which one it is, which is profile 5. Let's have a look. So yeah, we can see that this is pulled down this way, so we need to just place horizontal constraint on that one and close that. And what else do we need to do? So let's hide that and bring back the profiles and the footprint. So let's come up and look at the footprint. Should be looking at this side really. Here's profile 5, so you can see how far down that is. So this is the reason why it's going down this way. Let's double click that profile and you can see that line there. So let's move this line get rid of this one and move this up to be in line with this one. So we've obviously attached it to the wrong line, so I'm going to bring in this line here and attach it to that, coincident to that one, and close. That's better. And bring back the other loft. So we've got our finished canopy. Now if it's too wide, we can come into that footprint and change these lengths, and everything will reconfigure. Same with the profiles, we can change those profiles. Let's just hide that back line, click on it, press the space bar. These are two separate objects at the moment which can be combined together by clicking on one, control click on the other, and doing a union, which is a Boolean union found in part, Boolean, and union together. Those two are now union together. So that's the finished canopy, but how would you do that in the part design? Well, it's very similar. So I'm going to get to the point where I'm the loft. Let's get rid of that. So we've got back to all our sketches and our profiles here. And once we get to this point, well, if we want to use a part design workflow, go into part design, we'll create a body. So we've got the body there, and we'll highlight all of these and drop them into the body so we can use them in there. And we'll hide the scaffolding sketches, so these here. So we just have the profiles. Let's find our first profile. So let's take this one and then create an additive loft. So we've got that first profile, add a section, select, and it's basically the same. So we're doing exactly the same here. Moving across those, making sure we press add section first. And we've got all those in there. Let's hit OK. And we've got the additive loft in the part design workflow. I've got a profile here that looks a bit off, but we'll just close this profile up. No problems there. Let's have a look which profile that could be. So we can see that one's a different length there, this one here. So let's just double click that one and set a length in here. It looks like we've already set the length, but we haven't equal those. So this one and this one should be equal, and close that. That's better. And to mirror, we just take the additive loft and use the mirroring or part design, apply a pattern and mirrored, and it just mirrors over the correct plane there. Hit OK, and now we're done. We can come in and just hide those profiles like so. So there's a very simple canopy. We're going to be doing more on surfacing and using the surface workbench as well as part and part design in future videos, so we can make more complex surfaces. Hope you enjoyed watching that video. I hope to see you again soon.
If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a coffee site that you can donate to if you so desire, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content, and that's at www.patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel. Thanks a lot for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you again soon.